Hey guys, welcome back to the Patreon tutorial videos. It's been a while since I've sat down and had a little chat with you, so I feel a little bit rusty, so please excuse me if I'm tripping over my words a little bit, but I'm going to try to get through this and not start and stop a million times. So today we're going to be talking about character posing, which is very important. It's going to come down to the body language that your character is going to be able to give off so that you can hopefully pick up a little bit about the character from their just their body language in their image instead of having to rely on other things like facial expressions, clothing, written words, stuff like that. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview just on how this video is going to go. I'm going to try to keep it a little bit short today because I feel like it's a very simple concept that you need to just study things instead of having someone explain it to you, but I'm going to try to do my best and hopefully it will be helpful. If you do have any questions, please feel free to let me know and I will do my best to try to help you out. Also would like to say that this video will contain a bit of nudity, so if you are not comfortable with that, maybe go ahead and stop here. And I can try to either make you an audio file or send you a PDF image explanation. So if you are not comfortable with that, go ahead and stop the video and let me know, and I will send that to you. Okay, so so I will be showing you some examples of some character poses that I worked on last week when I thought I was going to be able to film this video. And then I'm going to sort of explain why I chose the poses that I did and like what I'm trying to portray through them so that hopefully that can kind of give you a good indication when you are looking for poses to reference or when you're drawing poses of something that you would want to do as well. I chose not to do Vos and Senna because I wanted to be able to really sit down and think through that and focus on it. So I wanted to just sort of play around with some other potential characters and kind of get a brainstorming session going, because I think, this is also a really good way to do character design. If you just draw a character and you like them, and then you can kind of try to tell a story from what you're picking up in these images. So maybe if you're interested in doing this project alongside me, you can do something like that if you haven't started your project yet. Okay, so in my opinion, and all of this is my opinion, let me just preface with that. These are things that I've picked up along the way that have been helpful to me, which might not necessarily be the most helpful thing to you, so I do think it is important to keep trying and learning from different sources, but I'm going to try my best to explain to you my vision of the things that I have learned over the years. So in my opinion, good character design is all about understanding your character, which is why sometimes, like I said, it's a little bit easier to see the character and then kind of figure out who they are from there, because I think sometimes your brain will tell a story with your hand without you meaning to do it, which is kind of nice. And I also would like to say that another big reason that we want to do this is because why we want to learn character posing and the body language behind it is because we want to be able to understand who this character is without having to rely on facial expressions and, written words or costume pieces, because we want to be able to tell who this character is, what their kind of vibe is, so to speak, from either behind, if you see them without anything on, or even just a silhouette. So let's kind of get into it. If you really want to simplify these ideas, I think we can do that into a few categories. And so I would say that when it comes to posing, you can portray things like what kind of character they are in the sense of if they are domineering or submissive, if they are gentle or more of a hard character, like a jaded character. And then I don't like these words, but I also feel like it's a very universal, understandable thing. But even just feminine versus masculine, and those words to me don't necessarily indicate a character's gender by any means. It just sort of indicates the general characteristics that go along with those words in the very base sense. So in this case, for example, I don't know if you heard Suki, but he's in here yelling. Yes. So in the story that I'm trying to portray right now, the character of Senna, she would be more of a masculine character. You know, she's very focused on utilitarianism, on being useful, on physical manual labor. So she's a little bit more of like a hard-edged character versus Voss. He is a gentler character. He's more like in touch with who he is, a little bit softer. So even in his posing, I try to make him seem a little bit softer, a little bit more gentle. So he would fall more under like the feminine category. Like I said, these are just words. They have nothing to do with gender. I think some examples of these is you see a lot of like quote unquote masculine character energies in things like sci-fi characters, post-apocalyptic characters, horror characters, where you might see more feminine energy in things like, you know, romance stories, fantasy, slice of life, just like, you know, the calmer, gentler side of things. But yeah. Also, I would like to say this is not an anatomy class, but I'll give you kind of a brief overview of gesture drawing because that is important, I think, to doing this sort of thing. Yeah. Okay. And I have used references for these character drawings because to me that's very important, because we're using references to study and draw from, because at the end of the day, like regardless of our styles, whether they're, you know, semi-realism or like, you know, completely accurate realism, more cartoony or like anime style, regardless of all that, we're trying to imitate life and create the illusion of a living, breathing creature. So in order to do that, we have to study life to see what it is that makes things seem lifelike. So these are all poses that I've referenced from some reference packs that I purchased a while ago, and I just find that sort of thing is really helpful. I'm going to include a list in the description of this video of places that I've used for reference drawings and gesture drawings in the past, and things that I've referenced for character designs and stuff like that. So yeah, if you are interested in that sort of thing, go ahead and take a look at that. So I want to show you first when I'm doing a gesture drawing. So I'm just going to draw over top of her because it's going to be easier. So I'll bring in this grid. You can see toggling it on and off, and I've included that in your Patreon package for this month, so that you have something like this. And this is working at like a 9 heads technically structure, but generally I'm using this just as a grid to get my proportions right versus a technical 9 heads. But you can see, like, you know, it is literally the size of her head. So, but 9 heads is usually used for like fashion or like superhero characters, and then like 7 and 8 heads, I think, are the standard when it comes to art. But it's totally up to you what you like to do. Like I said, I mostly just do it for grid purposes. I really like working in grids, so I thought maybe you guys would like that as well. Okay, so when you're doing gesture drawing, basically what you're trying to like imagine is that there's a line going straight down from the spine, or from the top of the head, like down through the spine to the base. And that, I believe, is called the plumb line. But it doesn't always stand straight. So like in this case, you can see it's going to come forward and then kind of curve back a little bit. So you have a little bit of this like arching energy. So if I'm doing a figure drawing and I'm starting from the very beginning, what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to draw a circle. So I know like her head is in this general region, and then I'm going to draw my center line. So that's going to kind of indicate the entire torso and hip direction. And then when it comes to the actual hips, you want to draw a line. So you can see this is going to give me indication of like where everything is going to fall. So then, you know, I can come in here and do something like this. You can draw, you know, feet and then also shoulders. So like you can see even without her in the background, you get an indication of the pose. So that's kind of, obviously I don't trace over poses, but if that's how you feel like you need to start in order to learn your shapes, I think that's totally fine, as long as you know that you're doing it and you do work on building your skills. Yeah. So there's her. Okay. So that's the sort of layout that I usually have for poses. And honestly, you can even do something like this where you do trace over it so you can see her lines, and then you come over here where there's no tracing, and then, you know, you try to like replicate that as best as you can. With or without your grid, but I think it is helpful to see like on a human where these lines actually are, so that you kind of get a better idea of things. So you can see that this one, her knee is going to be a little bit lower, so we'll do here, not quite that far. I'm not as far out as I wish I was, but that's okay. We're just doing a quick thing. And this is something that I think is very important to practice regularly. It's something that I was really bad at doing, like scheduled for quite a while. But I'm trying to get back into it. I used to do this a lot when I was in college and high school, because I had, in my animation courses, I had to do this. I had a gesture drawing class, and yeah, so I'm trying to get back into it, and I've really been enjoying it, and it's been super helpful to me so far. I feel like I've been able to replicate poses a whole lot better since I've started doing this again. So I definitely recommend that you do this. If you want to try to, like, you know, challenge mode yourself, you could always do something where you do it timed. So I think the standard is like 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and then 10 to 15 minutes, depending on your preference. Yeah, but I think that is a very good way to get in the swing of it. And I also think that that will, you know, be something that will help you in the future when it comes to being able to quickly do character poses. So let's just pretend that face shape makes sense. But yeah, like you can see, I mean, that was terrible and I wasn't really working my hardest, but that was probably what, like 2.5 minutes from looking at my reference, and it's not so bad. My feet are a little wonky, but it is what it is. We're not going for accuracy right now. Just trying to explain. Okay, so let's get into this. So let me see where all my layers are. Okay, so as I said, I start with this grid, and then I will make a sketch, just a base under sketch that looks like that, or like that. And then from there, you know, I'll kind of come in, and obviously you don't have to do this like with lines if you don't want to, but in this case I did. I'm doing a terrible job, but you know, I'll come in and do like a base line and then paint within it. But you don't have to paint, or you don't have to do lines, like whatever your preference is. But that's not really what we're here to show you. Okay, so I'm going to show you some of the poses that I've drawn, and then we're going to kind of talk about why I picked those and sort of what they're portraying. Try to do, oops, not him, go away. Tried to do two very different poses. Ooh, okay, she got giant. Two different poses to sort of show you a difference. I think you can just kind of automatically tell a distinct difference here. So with this character, we have more of like a flowing kind of shape, where she's more like hard edges, you know, a very like straight, confident line. So with that, you know, looking at this character over here, she has, you know, her head tilted back a little bit, so that's going to signify some sort of a confidence. The way that she's like leading with her hips in this image, so she's kind of like also portraying that like feminine energy, and also once again like more feminine confidence. These are both very confident poses, I think, but they have completely different energies, and that goes back to the masculine versus feminine thing that I was talking about before. It's not a gendered thing, it's just, I don't know what better word to use. If you guys have a better word that you can think of, please let me know so I can stop using them. But yeah, so like with a character like this, like we look at this and she has that, you know, maybe the better word versus feminine, maybe it's more of a creative, like she has a creative feel. So maybe she's like a, you know, a wood nymph or something, and she has little plants and like a little cute dress or whatever, something like that. Or, you know, she could be a sorceress, or, I mean, honestly, she could still be, if we want to put her in a sci-fi world, she could still be like a soldier or something, but maybe she, you know, has something different about her, like she's the main character and that's why she's different than the rest of the soldiers or something like that. But she has a very like, you know, quiet confidence that has something else going on behind the story. She's not shy by any means. Where this character, you know, she looks a bit more guarded, a bit more like she's confident, you can tell, but she has a bit of like an anxiety behind her pose, like she feels like she might need to fight or might need to run at any time. And maybe it's a little bit less like outgoing necessarily, a little bit more of a defensive pose, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, you know, maybe she's a soldier or like a post-apocalyptic character, or, you know, a warrior of some type. But you can tell like even just, let's give them the same outfit. Okay, so say we put this like a long flowing dress on her. Let's give her a slit because she got that leg popping, so why not? Versus we put a long flowing dress on this girl over here. We'll give her the same slit. Like, it's not that either one looks out of place. It's just this one looks more like she might be the like seductress, like, you know, sorceress. She has like a different kind of energy about her, where this girl looks like if you know, threw her in a casino and gave her like a gun, she might be like a secret assassin or something. Like she's on a mission, you know? And conversely, like say you're making a character design and these are your two options for posing, you know, and say this character is supposed to be like a little maid or something. Let's give her some little poofies. I don't know what this dress is, but we're just doing like a little, you know, maid costume. Sure. Like you can already tell that you're telling two completely different stories with these characters. And like I said, this is something you kind of like have to learn for yourself, unfortunately. But, you know, in this case, maybe she seems a little bit more, this character might seem a little bit more like right for a costume like this, for a character like this, versus like she seems a little out of place unless we're like doing, you know, maid battle or something. But yeah, I mean, she'd still be cute. She'd be a great little, you know, cutesy gal, but you can just already kind of tell it's a little bit off. There's a very distinct difference between these two energies. And that's why it's important to study these things, so that when you have your characters that you're working on, they're not kind of all in the same stagnant pose. Like, you can already tell personalities based on both of these characters. Okay, so then let's move on to some guys. Ugh, he's running away from us. Put him over here, and then our other guy over here. Okay, so I wanted to pick this guy because, or these guys, because they were basically the same frame, and they were not drawn from the same person in the photos of references. They were two different people, but they were similarly shaped. And the reason I wanted to do that was because I wanted to show you how, you know, just posing a character regardless of their body type is going to really make a huge difference. And obviously we have some other character elements going here. So like this guy has a sword. He's got some like longer hair. This guy has some bleached hair. And those are things that, like, you know, are basic elements to character design that are going to sort of already start forming an idea in your head. But you can already tell, like, just from looking at them, that their body language is very different. And both of them are like walking forward to do something, but in a very different way. So this guy over here, you can see like he has the sword, which, you know, should signify like strength, and that, like, obviously he's, you know, like willing to harm someone if he has to, but maybe, you know, maybe more so to protect somebody or something like that. Like, you can see in his body language here, oops, let's put this way up here. Yeah, you can see in his body language here, like, he's like a bit more closed off. He's like protecting his, and this gets into like way, you know, psychological body language stuff, but like protecting his internal organs with his body language, which has more of like a defensive pose. Like, you see that a lot when people cross their arms when they talk, or when they cross their legs if they're sitting. It's a very like uncomfortable, I'm trying to protect myself sort of gesture. And even the same with like his knees being a little bit bent and together, it kind of portrays a similar thing. Where this guy over here has a much more confident pose. He's, you know, stepping forward strongly to do something. He's actively moving in the direction of whatever it is he's about to go do, but at the same time, like, his chest is open. You know, you could even do like maybe put both of his hands in fists, so you can tell like he's going to do something, and he's determined. But you also see that, like, with the posing of his arms, like, he's very relaxed. This is a very confident gesture. He knows he's going to go do something that he thinks he can finish. Yeah, so I wanted to show you guys that because I think it's just very important to make differences in your character design. Because honestly, I could have drawn the same character with this and it still would have looked like two different people. Maybe the confident twin and then the shy twin or whatever. But yeah, so this is like a very outgoing, confident pose, where dominant pose, where this is going to be a little bit more shy, a little bit more anxious, a little bit more defensive of a pose. Like, maybe he's having to protect someone, he's having to go to battle, but he doesn't want to, but it's his duty or something like that. Yeah, so, you know, this guy might be your star swimmer on the swim team, where, like, if you put this guy in the same scenario, like, he'd be the one that's maybe actually really good at it, but isn't sure of himself, and he has this whole character arc and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I mean, you can see, like, none of these people are characters that I intended on creating at all. So just the fact that you can create a whole storyline from a character's pose, I think, is important. And that's kind of the whole point of this lesson, is just seeing how seeing how you can sort of portray that, like, sorry, I'm so out of practice talking. Just portraying how you can see that, like, this could be a silhouette or this could be him just standing here, but like he doesn't have any indicators about his character other than literally his body language, but you can already tell a huge difference between the two of them, and you can kind of start to form your own ideas. So that's basically it for this lesson. It's, like I said, a really quick one. I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys through that, and I hope that you can go forward and start looking at references and start to see these things in those references, and kind of like maybe keep a notebook next to you, or, you know, while you're practicing, if you're practicing figure drawing, go ahead and, like, you know, every time you do one off to the side, write, like, is this a defensive pose? Is this a confident pose? Is this like a domineering pose, a submissive pose? Like, is it more, does this character seem more jaded? Do they seem more gentle? Just start writing those sort of things down, and I think you'll be really interested to see how just how things change so quickly when you just leave that one indicator. And yeah, so I hope this was helpful to you guys. If you have any questions, please go ahead and message me. Like I said, this is a very like conceptual tutorial, more of just to get your head in a big think when you're creating your own characters. It's not so much like a drawing tutorial, so I hope that was okay with you guys. But I did feel that it was very necessary to learn that and to kind of just talk about it so that you are aware as you're drawing of what you're doing. And I know that some of you guys that are Patreons here are also artists, and some of you are very, very good at this already. And I think that this is just maybe a refresher, just to kind of remind you that this is something good to think about. This is something that, like, I definitely need a refresher on every now and then, just to be like, stop drawing stagnant poses, like, think about this, who are they, who are they? But yeah, so I hope that helped you guys, and I will talk to you soon in the next month's tutorial when we work on character sheets. So I hope you're excited. I hope that you are also working on something and we can kind of do that together. So that's all. Stay hydrated. Go take a walk around your block if you can, and do some stretches, especially your wrists. All right, bye.